All right, now that you're done with your warm-up, we're going to start a brand new topic today. It's kind of building on what we've been doing, but it's something a little bit different. So today, students will be able to solve literal equations for a specified variable. So you're solving for a specific variable, and there's going to be other variables inside the problem. It's not as hard as it sounds. So vocabulary, remember the distributive property. That's when you do 8 times x, which is 8x, and then 8 times 2, which is 16. Inverse operations means you do the opposite. So if it's adding, you subtract. If it's subtracting, you add. If it's multiplying, you divide. If it's dividing, you're multiplying. Addition property of equality means if you add on one side, you must add to the other side. Subtraction property of equality means if you subtract from one side, you must subtract from the other side. Multiplication property of equality means if you multiply on one side, you have to multiply on the other side. Division property of equality means if you divide on one side, you must divide on the other side. If you have a solution, you'll have x equals some number, okay? No solution is when it says something that doesn't make sense, like 5 equals 3. 5 does not equal 3, so it's no solution. Infinite solutions is when they equal the exact same thing, so 2x equals 2x. That is true. And there's an x on both sides, if there's a number on both sides, so that'd be infinite solutions. Okay, the number on this side is going to be greater than the number on this side. The number on this side will be less than the number on this side. The number on this side will be greater than or equal to the number on this side. And the number on this side will be less than or equal to the number on this side. So let's get to our worksheet for today. I'm going to do the first row of problems with you, and then you're going to do the rest by yourself. Okay, so I'm just going to do number 1 and explain some things to you, and then you're going to be able to catch on as we go along. So don't get too discouraged if you're confused by number 1. So there are 2 steps to solving for y equals, because that's what we're doing for the whole worksheet, is we're trying to get y by itself. We're trying to get it set to y equals, okay? So the 2 steps of doing that. Step number 1, write this down. Move the x. Okay, that's step number 1. Step number 2 is divide by y. Move the x, divide by y. Move the x, divide by y. Okay, so here's how that looks. We're trying to get y by itself here, okay? So what we're going to do is take this whole x and move it to the other side of the equal sign, okay? When you do that, it's going to change the sign in front of it because he's going to a whole new world. So he's going to become a whole new person. Okay, so we have y equals, when we move the positive 2x to the other side of the equal sign, it becomes a negative 2x. And then we have the 8, so we just write plus 8. Okay? So if that confuses you, don't freak out. You'll get used to it the more you see it, okay? So let's look at number 2. What is the first step? Move the x, right? So we're going to take this x term, and we need to move it away from y, right? So we have y equals, that negative 3x, when we move it, becomes a what? Positive 3x. And then we write minus 6. Very good. There's nothing in front of y, and so we're done. It is set to y equals. Okay? So let's go on to the next one. Okay, number 3. What's the first step? Move the x. So we're going to take this 3x and move it. So what are we left with on the side? 2y equals what? Negative 3x, right? Because we moved it. Negative 3x plus 24. Okay, so we moved the x. What's the second step? Divide by y. So here's what I mean by that. 2 is being multiplied times y, right? We need y by itself. So how do we get rid of the 2 being multiplied by y? Divide by 2. Okay, so this cancels out, and we're left with y. Good. What is negative 3 divided by 2? Type it in. Negative 3 divided by 2. Hit math, enter, enter. Hit math, enter, enter. It's negative 3 over 2. And that's our slope, right? What is 24 divided by 2? 12. And that'll be your answer. Whenever you divide by y, you must divide by every term in the problem, okay? All right, so looking at number 4, it's set up a little different, okay? So if this confuses you, switch it around. Write it as 4x plus 3y equals 18, okay? All we did was move things from one side to the other. You can do that as long as it's equal to, because it still says the same thing. So what's our first step here? Move the x. Okay, so we have 3y equals, that 4x becomes negative 4x plus 18. What's our second step? Divide by y, right? So what are we dividing by? 3. Underneath just the y? No, all the terms. Okay? So we have y equals, what is negative 4 divided by 3?
Negative 4 over 3.
It is. It's negative 4 over 3. Don't forget your x, okay? Don't forget your x. What is 18 divided by 3? 6. So we put plus 6. And ta-da, y's by itself. So we've got our answer. Okay? All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, what's our first step here? Move the x. So we're going to move the 8x over here. We're left with what? What is it? Not 3. Negative 3y. Equals, and this 8x becomes negative 8x plus 12. Okay, so we move the x. What's our next step? Yeah, we're dividing by the negative 3 under every term. Remember the negative. Do not forget that negative sign. So we have y equals, what is negative 8 divided by negative 3? 8 over 3. Very good. 8 over 3 what? X. Good. What is 12 divided by negative 3? Negative 4. So how do we write that? Minus 4. All right, so let's look at number 6. What's the first step here? Move the x. So what are we left with here? 2y equals what? 5x plus 20. Good. Okay, what's our next step? Divide by the 2, right? So we have y equals, what is 5 divided by 2? 5 over 2. And then what's 20 over 2? 10. Okay, let's go on to the next one. I think we have 2 more in this row, and then you should be able to do the rest on your own. Here we go. Number 7. Number 7. What's our first step? Move the x. Okay, so what are we left with here? 2y equals what? Negative 3x plus 10. Okay, what's our next step? Divide by the 2, right? So this cancels. We have y equals, what's negative 3 over 2? Negative 3 over 2. What's 10 over 2? 5. All right, last one. What do you want to do first for number 8? Yeah, let's switch them over. Let's change sides so that we aren't confused, okay? So 2x minus 7y equals 21. Okay, now what can we do? Move the x. So what do we write here? Negative 7y. Don't forget your negative. Equals what? Negative 2x plus 21. So we move the x. What's our next step? Yeah, divide them all by -7. So this cancels. We have y equals, what's -2 divided by -7? 2/7. And what's 21 divided by -7? -3. So we write that as -3. All right, so you should be able to do the rest of the worksheet on your own. Please let me know if you have any questions. Let me check it over before you turn it in, and good luck.